First story. The Black Pine Woods had always been the kind of place people whispered about but never visited after dark. Locals said the trees there grew too close together, the ground too soft in places where it shouldn't be. Animals avoided it. Birds never sang there. And everyone in town knew the stories about the lurker. When Kamran and his friends decided to camp there, they laughed off the warnings. They thought it would be fun, something to brag about later. They brought their tents, their snacks, their flashlights. But the minute they crossed into the woods, Kamran felt it. Like the air was heavier, wrong. The trees towered overhead, blocking out most of the fading daylight, making it hard to tell how deep they were going. The path vanished behind them quicker than it should have. "We'll set up here," Bilal said, dropping his pack in a small clearing. They built a fire and joked around for a while, but even the flames felt dimmer in Black Pine Woods. Kamran kept glancing over his shoulder, sure he heard something moving just beyond the trees. Branches cracking softly, like weight shifting where there shouldn't be any. At midnight they all heard it, a low scraping sound, as if something was dragging itself slowly across the forest floor. Not footsteps, not an animal. Something slower, heavier. Bilal aimed his flashlight toward the sound, but the beam didn't reach far. Just endless black trunks, and something glinting between them, like two small points of light. "Probably an animal," Arman said, forcing a laugh. But Kamran shook his head. "No animal stands that tall." They went back to the fire, trying to act like it was fine, like they weren't listening to that slow, steady sound circling them. When the fire started to die, they added more wood. But no matter how much they threw on, the flames struggled to stay lit. Kamran noticed the ground beneath them wasn't just soft, it was sinking. Slowly, inch by inch, like something underneath was pulling it down. "We should leave," Kamran whispered. Before they could move, they heard breathing, not their own, not close but not far enough. Heavy, wet breaths, like lungs that hadn't worked properly in a long time. The sound drifted through the trees, circling them, getting closer. Then they saw it. A shape between the trunks. Taller than a man, its limbs too long, too thin. It didn't walk. It dragged itself, its hands clawing at the ground like it was pulling its body forward. Its head tilted at an angle that shouldn't have been possible, and its eyes, those faint glinting lights, never blinked. They ran. The woods twisted around them, paths closing in ways that didn't make sense. No matter how far they ran, the trees stayed too close, and the sound of dragging followed them. Slower, patient. Kamran tripped and hit the ground hard. He rolled onto his back just in time to see something long and pale slip back into the darkness. Bilal grabbed him by the arm and yanked him up. They kept running, but Arman was gone. They didn't hear him scream. 1 minute he was behind them. The next, nothing. Kamran and Bilal burst out of the woods just as the sun was rising, their lungs burning, their hands scraped raw from grabbing at anything to pull themselves forward. They collapsed on the dirt road, not looking back, not daring. To when they told people in town, the old folks just nodded. "The lurker of Black Pine Woods," one of them said. "Doesn't chase, just waits. Kamran doesn't go near trees anymore, not even little ones. Bilal doesn't talk much these days, and if you ask him what he saw, he just shakes his head and mutters, 'It was smiling.' They never found Arman. But sometimes when the wind is right and the sky is dark enough, people near Black Pine Woods say they hear something dragging itself slowly through the trees. Waiting.
Second story. Amina had just moved into an old apartment downtown, the kind of place that creaked when you walked and groaned when the wind hit the windows. It was small but cheap, and she liked the big mirror in the bedroom. The mirror was old, an antique, the landlord had said, and nearly covered the wall opposite her bed. It had an ornate black frame carved with twisting shapes that reminded her of vines or snakes. At first she thought it was beautiful, but something about it made her uneasy at night. The first night she slept there, she woke up in the middle of the night and realized the mirror was reflecting something it shouldn't. Her room was dark. She always slept with the lights off. But in the mirror, she saw a faint, flickering glow, like candlelight, coming from somewhere deep inside the reflection. It wasn't in her room. It was in the mirror. She sat up slowly, staring at it. The reflection shimmered, and for a moment she thought she saw movement. A figure passing by in the background, where there should have been nothing but the blank wall behind her. Amina grabbed her phone, turning on the flashlight, and pointed it at the mirror. The glow vanished, replaced by her pale, frightened face staring back at her. She shook her head and laughed nervously. "You're just tired," she whispered. The next night, it happened again. At exactly 3:03 a.m., she woke up and found herself staring into the mirror. This time she didn't sit up. She couldn't. Her body wouldn't move. She could only watch as the reflection showed the same flickering candlelight and a shadow. The figure stepped closer in the mirror. It was tall, draped in something that moved like heavy cloth. Its face was hidden in darkness, but she could feel its eyes on her. The thing stood there, unmoving, just watching her through the glass. And then it raised one pale, thin hand and touched the inside of the mirror. Slowly, its fingers dragged across the surface, leaving streaks that looked like frost on a window. Her body jerked free, and she scrambled out of bed. Without thinking, she threw a blanket over the mirror and shoved a chair against it, her breath ragged. The room felt colder, heavier, as if the air was too thick to breathe. She didn't sleep after that. In the morning, she considered moving out, but the cost of breaking the lease was too much. So she bought heavy black fabric and nailed it over the mirror. Out of sight, out of mind. For a while, it worked, until she started hearing noises from behind it. At first, it was faint tapping. Then it turned into scratching, like fingernails dragging over glass. Sometimes it came in bursts. Sometimes it lasted for hours. One night, she finally had enough. She yanked the fabric down and stared at the mirror. Nothing happened. No flickering lights. No shadows. It was just her reflection, pale and tired. But when she turned to walk away, she noticed something that made her freeze. Her reflection didn't move. It stood there, smiling faintly, its eyes darker than they should have been. And then it raised its hand, without her moving hers, and touched the inside of the glass, just like the figure had before. She backed away slowly, not daring to blink. The reflection pressed its palm harder against the surface. Cracks spiderwebbed out from where its hand touched. Small at first, then deeper. Then with a sharp sound, the mirror split open, the glass breaking away like a door swinging inward. And something stepped through. The figure was draped in that same dark cloth, its face empty, hollow. It was taller than it should have been, and its arms were too long, ending in pale, thin fingers. It tilted its head as if studying her, then took a slow step forward. Amina ran. She slammed the bedroom door shut and shoved a dresser in front of it, heart pounding in her throat. For hours, she heard nothing. Then there was a knock. Gentle, slow, 3 times. She left the apartment the next morning and never went back. But sometimes, late at night, when she passes a dark window or a shiny surface, she sees something. Not her reflection. Not exactly. A figure standing just behind the glass. And sometimes it smiles, because mirrors don't just reflect what's in front of them. Sometimes they show you what's waiting on the other side.